What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Crypto, Coffee, and Lo-Fi. I had a week's break. Unfortunately, a few days ago, I did get stopped out on the majority of my alt positions. But my higher time frame view, if you're new here, I am just using the same pattern to find support, resistance, and I'm using that same pattern to find accumulation and distribution in the market. Now, once I find the areas of accumulation and distribution, I then just use that same pattern again as my entry trigger. So what is that pattern? Essentially, it is just a head and shoulders. So I look for a high. I then look for that high to be swept. Once that high is swept, I look for price to break below the low that's responsible for taking that high. Once we do get that break below, I then look for a retest of this range, where I then look for the same pattern to form again. Now, I do use a few liquidity techniques, I guess you could call them, with this strategy that kind of puts it all together, but I'm not going to explain that here. But essentially, you can see on my chart that it is just that one pattern. So accumulation, what does that look like? See, we have a sweep of this low. We then break above the highs responsible for taking that low. Now, once we retest this range here, this range right here, we then get a sweep of these lows and then a break above the high. Now, you can see we are in a temporary downtrend, and I'll explain exactly why I think that. But we are yet to retest the higher time frame bullish level that was responsible for this move here. So I think before we see the continuation of this overall trend, I think we do need to see the retrace to just below 50K. We may not get that, and I'll explain what price will look like if it's not going to retrace all the way down to this level. So if at any point anything that I'm explaining here or the way that I'm analyzing the charts interests you, feel free to click the link in the description below and pick up a copy of the strategy. So you can see we swept out all of these lows, sweeping out all of these lows as well. So this is the first sign of accumulation, sweeping out the lows, breaking above the highs responsible for taking those lows. So everyone, well, on my timeline at least, is bullish, and I can see why you would think that, but we have not yet seen any significant high time frame break in structure. So I do think this lower level is going to get tested. However, something like this would convince me otherwise. So a H4 or daily close above this level would be the first step, and then I would like to see some reaccumulation once we retest this range here. So something like this, a low, an obvious low forming, followed by a sweep and then a break above the highs responsible for taking the low. Something like this would convince me that maybe we won't test this level. But then also keeping in mind, we do have these levels of distribution that also need to be invalidated. So you can see we swept the high, breaking below the low that was responsible for taking that high. Now, once we retest this range, we then see the same pattern again. So sweeping out these highs, breaking below the low that's responsible for taking those highs. So even if we do break up above this level and reaccumulate, we may then just redistribute at this level. So what we don't want to see for this level to hold is reaccumulation, but then redistribution right here, which might look something like that. If price is going to continue up from where we are, I would like to see the break above, reaccumulation, and then I would like to see this level invalidated and this level invalidated. For now, there's not quite enough evidence for me to get long. If anything, this is just a retest of a previous area of resistance. So if anything, we get a sweep and then a break below, or a sweep of this level and then redistribution. Yeah, so I would rather a test of this level for the higher time frame trend to continue, but I could be wrong. Just one alt that I'm looking at here. I'm already in this position, so you see we swept out this low, breaking above the high that was responsible for taking that low right here. Then once we retest this range, we then form the same pattern again. So sweeping out this low, breaking above the high, and then forming the same pattern again. So I am long from about $220. We'll see how this runs. There's a lot of upside potential to this, in my opinion. So if we take a look at the daily, you can see we are just accumulating. So stacking up the orders here. So sweeping out a low, breaking above the high, sweeping out these lows, breaking above the high, form the same pattern again. Would like to see this high invalidated. If we can invalidate this high, then I see no reason why we wouldn't head all the way up to $400 and then to $500 after that as well. No worries, I'm going to cut that episode here. So it is Monday. We did see an early run up, and I've explained this in the last few episodes, so you can go and check that out. But a bullish move right before London Open, right at the start of the week, isn't really the most bullish sign. Honestly, it normally ends with it normally means that price is just retracing before a further sell-off. So just keeping that in mind. I've gone over the scenarios. All I can do is just plan with what I have. If we can break some structure and reaccumulate, then I'll look to get long on a 64K. But until we see that reaccumulation somewhere inside of this range here, then I would just assume that this is just a retest of resistance before a further sell-off. No worries, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, subscribe. If anything here interests you, just pick up a copy of the strategy. The link is in the description below. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.